No, I'm ready to. And first of all, I'm really, 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 really ready for you to come home. First of all. Second of all, I am also ready for this podcast because, travel, that's my bag. I'm very excited to be able to share some travel tips with y'all because, man, yeah, it's a good time.
Sinclair, you have 20 minutes on this episode. We're not playing games. Last time the episode was supposed to be 30 minutes, and I don't know what you did, but you went on for an hour and a half. So you have 20 minutes. I know this is your bag and everything. It's 10 o'clock out here. You got 20 minutes.
See what I can do.
Welcome, Melanated Married Millionaires in the making and friends, to another impactful episode. We're about to go through and highlight a melanated married couple or just go through some lessons that we got. Make sure y'all tap in with the conversation. Queen, where can they go to tap in?
TheeM4Show.com.
Yes, ma'am. And make sure y'all follow us on Instagram. Queen, where can they follow us on Instagram?
The M4 Show.
Now, if y'all haven't liked and subscribed, it would make the Queen very, very happy. If you can go ahead. Very? What should they do?
You should go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
It's free and your first step to becoming a millionaire. Go ahead and click that button. And let's get into the show.
Let's do it.
Oh, guys. We're live. I'm in Ghana.
He's just coming in with the energy struggle.
The energy struggle for sure. Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of the amazing Melanated Married Millionaires in the making. I'm your host, Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game. Of course, I got my beautiful queen on the other side of the pond over there. Please introduce yourself.
What is up, everybody? I am Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd. And yes, I am over here on the other side of the world.
Other side of the world, the sun's still out and stuff, you know. Yeah. But last week we did a call in because I was in Cape Coast, Ghana. Didn't have any Wi-Fi, barely had any internet to text or call, but we still made it work, still made it popping. I'm back in Accra, have Wi-Fi again, so we back on video. But before we officially get into today's episode, which is going to be about travel, about seeing the world, the benefits of seeing the world, and some of the tips and tricks that the queen has up her sleeve to help us get around the world. Queen, before we get into all that, can you please hit the beautiful people with the did you know?
Yes. So, did you know that your eyes and skin coming in contact with the sunlight actually tells your body what hormones should be produced, what detoxification processes should be happening? It really keeps your body's timing and circadian rhythm in check. So, if you wake up, whenever you wake up, it's a really, really good habit to, in the first hour or so of your day, go outside and get just like 15 minutes of sunshine. I always recommend like a 20-minute walk in the morning, so that not only are you getting in that physical movement, but you're also allowing your bodies to really get in touch with that sunshine, those sun rays, so that your body actually knows what time of day it is, what types of things should be happening, right? Oh, it's daytime. I should be producing cortisol. I should be producing estrogen, testosterone, all these different hormones that keep us alive and thriving. We want to make sure that our body are able to produce those at its correct time. So, especially when you travel, this is where I'm going to tie it in. I'm excellent tying in skills here. But when you travel, you can experience that jet lag, right? Because your body was on one side of the world, you got an airplane, you got out of the airplane, and now it's at a whole different time zone, whole different time of the, time of the day. So get outside, get some sunshine whenever you can when you're traveling and when you're in a different time zone to help your body reset so that you can go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, wake up, and do what you need to do for the day.
There it is. And when you were doing this, so security came on in. They're like, "What room are you in? Are you supposed to be in here?" I'm like, "Golly, I'm doing a live podcast here, folks. Can you give me 30 minutes, security?" But yeah, I definitely love when we travel, get reacclimated with the sunshine, with the food, with a nice little nap. Another thing that can help you get reacclimated during a vacation or after a vacation is getting a good massage. So this week's sponsor, small business sponsor of the M4 show is the Eden Spa out here in the Inland Empire of California. If you're interested in getting yourself a massage, they do personal training. They do a lot of good activities to just revitalize your spirit. You can go to edenspa.net. Eden Spa is on a mission to provide you therapeutic and stimulating, relaxing massage therapies through manipulation and stretching of your muscles and tissue. EdenSpa.net. Make sure y'all check them out. Queen,
King.
anything before we officially get into today's podcast that you would like to talk about?
No, I'm ready to. And first of all, I'm really, 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 really ready for you to come home. First of all. Second of all, I am also ready for this podcast because, travel, that's my bag. I'm very excited to be able to share some travel tips with y'all because, man, yeah, it's a good time.
Sinclair, you have 20 minutes on this episode. We're not playing games. Last time the episode was supposed to be 30 minutes, and I don't know what you did, but you went on for an hour and a half. So you have 20 minutes. I know this is your bag and everything. It's 10 o'clock out here. You got 20 minutes.
See what I can do.
Oh, goodness. All right, y'all. This is going to be our episode. But without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Over 50% of Black Americans are unmarried, and only 2% of Black families in America have a net worth over $1 million.
We are on our journey to not only join that 2%, but grow that 2%.
Facts. I'm Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game, with my beautiful co-host.
I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
And welcome to the M4 Show.
All right, welcome back. Queen.
Yes.
Let's talk about why people should travel, why we travel, what are the benefits, formal or informal, of seeing the world and having fun.
Yeah, I think a big benefit of travel is just the exposure to different parts of the world, different languages, different cultures, different traditions. And then, I mean, just physically, like different sites. So the world looks very different depending on where you are. So, right, beaches look different. Some places are really hilly, some places are really flat, some places are warm, some places are cold. So I think it's cool just to put yourself in an environment that is different than what you're comfortable to. I think we always talk about like getting outside of your comfort zone. To me, travel is getting outside of your comfort zone. It's like the exact definition of that because you're leaving your household, you're leaving your neighborhood, you're leaving your country, possibly, to go and experience someone else's. And typically it's going to be some place you've never been or a place you're not familiar with, but that is part of the fun. That's part of the experience, is getting familiar in a place that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, we talk about just exposure all the time, right? So just being able to literally go to Italy, go to Ghana, go to Cape Coast, go to Jamaica, and you just see a different culture. You may get on an international flight and realize that, oh, there's all you can drink wine on flights. Huh. I can live like that, right? It's just opens your eyes to a whole different world. Or, oh, you can get a on the beach condo for $200,000 in Thailand and eat all you can eat Korean barbecue for $20. And it's just like, I might want to retire in Thailand, right? So just being exposed to different parts of the world, the way that people live, exposure makes you expand your brain a little bit. I know you had like some tips, some tricks, some resources. I know there's a long list, but you're going to try your best to not go through the whole list.
That is true. But before we even get there, I want to just touch on like the first couple steps that I take before we actually book a trip.
Here we go. Jair, didn't we talk about this? Jair, before the podcast, we talked about what we were.
I'm skipping the part that you said to skip. Okay, but I think it's still important. I'll just go over the first kind of tip, and that is to decide what your priority is for your trip. And I typically have like three buckets of things that I'm trying to decide between. And the reason why I say decide what your priority is otherwise you'll be searching for months. If you're me, you'll be searching for months because there are endless possibilities of when you can travel, where you can travel, and when you can travel. So choose one of those to set in stone. So between your the location you want to travel, between the time you want to travel, like the dates or time of year you want to travel, and the budget you want to spend. Choose one of these to set in stone that kind of serves as the anchor for the rest of your trip as you're researching. So that is just the one thing I wanted to say to start, because otherwise it can be a little bit daunting. You're like, okay, I want to take a trip, and where do I start? Start with one of those three buckets, whichever one you know for sure. Maybe you've got a spring break you're trying to travel for, and that would be your thing. I'm traveling during these dates, and that's something for you to start. Maybe it's just a specific place. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. Shout out to Grandy. So that's gonna be the place. We're going to Hawaii now. We need to figure out when we're going. Or maybe it's, hey, we've got $3,000 to go on a trip, so this is what we're spending, and we'll go wherever we can within this budget. Choose one of those three buckets to set in stone. That's all I wanted to say on that. Okay. So now I'm gonna move into some tips that I use while planning travel. So the first one is flights. Let's all be real. That's one of the biggest stressors of travel. I know sometimes it is what actually keeps folks from wanting to go out and travel. It's like them not wanting to deal with long flights or deal with customs or anything like that. So it is a big part of the trip. And also, if you're talking about monetarily, it is also usually the most expensive part of the trip. So you're planning a trip, you want to make sure that you are getting a good deal on your flights. Two tools I want to recommend for you are Google Flights. That is my like number one tool that I use when I'm planning travel because there are so many different ways to use it. Again, if you know which dates, even if you just know the month you want to travel, you can put in the month, you can put in your starting place, and then you can just go and explore and see, okay, based on where I'm starting and based on when I want to travel, here are all the places you can travel and here are the prices. And so you can kind of see if you wanted to base it off of, making it the most affordable trip, or more just getting the most affordable flights. That's a good way to start, is kind of using the explore feature on Google Flights. And the other reason I really like it is because it shows all flights from just about all airlines that exist. It doesn't have all of them on there. Like I think Southwest does not show up on there for whatever reason. So that's just something to keep in mind. But other than that, it kind of takes all of the data from out there on the internet and compiles them into one easy place, and you can track flights. So let's say you're in your researching phase right now, but you want to know if the price of this flight is going to change. You can track it, and it will alert you anytime that flight changes. So a really cool tool that I recommend you start with when you're in the researching phase of flights. The other tool that I recommend is called Hopper. And Hopper is a good one where you can, again, put in when you want to travel and where you want to go. And it can let you know when the best time to actually purchase the ticket is, which is really cool because prices go up and down all the time. Stop making fun of me, Devon. Prices go up and down all the time. So it can be good to know that, like, okay, I'm planning a trip 6 months out. But right now, it might not actually be the cheapest time to buy the ticket. It might go up and then it might come back down in 2 months. So it'll let you know when the price has dipped low enough for you to buy that ticket. So two really good tools that I like to use to make your trip the most affordable. Um, One more thing that I'm going to say on flights that I recommend, and this is a hack that we're actively using for a trip that we have coming up, is to get an airline's credit card, something where you can track miles, where you can accumulate miles for your every time you swipe that card, because that is literal miles. If you're a traveler, that is literal miles money that you can be using for flights. So this trip we have coming up in March, we used miles for I think like 3 of the 5 flights that we're taking. And so it was really nice, and that saved us a lot of money on this trip. So definitely recommend you take advantage of that. King, you got anything to add on finding a good flight?
No, I was going to add the credit card thing.
My bad.
Thanks for stealing that one, Sinclair. But yeah, whether it's American Airlines or American Express, doesn't have to be a airline specific card, although that usually gives you the best dollar for dollar. But if you have a business card that you already use and you have points, or you have a regular credit card that you use and you already have accumulated points, look at using those points for the flight or some of these other purchases we'll talk about later. I know also there's some, I think it's called a Southwest Companion Pass, where if you buy so many flights in 1 year, then you can have a passenger that flies free for you for the entire year as well. Southwest is definitely more local, but if you want to take a lot of mini vacations throughout the nation, in United States, a companion pass can literally be a buy one get one free ticket for you and your partner for an entire year. So that's also a good investment.
There's also a couple websites out there. I used to be signed up with a couple. I don't remember them anymore, but there are also some that can just alert you whenever there are like really cheap flights. And just they every now and then they come. I don't know if it's because they're just trying to sell seats really quickly, but every now and then you'll see random flights like LA to Amsterdam for $230, like random flash sales that are come, and you just have to be quick with those purchases. So if you are down for like a last minute travel or that type of thing, definitely research one of those sites for just like budget flights. Moving on to accommodations, that's kind of the next big thing that folks are typically wanting to plan for their vacation is where you actually staying. So one thing I do want to note before you even really start researching or looking into like where you want your hotel to be or anything like that, I always like to also do research on the region that we're staying in, and like which neighborhoods or areas are best for tourists. And that's just because there are some places where, maybe there's pockets of tourist locations, and then there's others that are not as touristy. And depending on where you are, that can mean also that there are safer areas than others. So I typically like to stay in the more touristy areas because, again, touristy typically means that they're gonna have like security and things like that watching to protect the tourists, so it can just make you feel a little bit more secure while you're walking around and enjoying your vacation. So once you kind of determined where you want to stay, next you get to actually research like hotels and things like that. So a couple of good recommendations or tips that I use is one, Airbnb. I am a fan of using Airbnb because it is typically just more space for the amount of money, or even cheaper than a hotel typically. So if you there are kind of pros and cons to each one, so it really also depends on where you're going and what's going to be more conducive to your stay. Staying at a hotel, you might have more amenities available. You might have a restaurant within the building. Again, you're gonna have like typically like a front doorman or like security, a gym, breakfast. Like there are, the service, which called the cleaning service that can come, turn down service. So there are a lot of different room service. There are a lot of different amenities that you have staying in a hotel that you may not have staying in an Airbnb. But staying at an Airbnb, you can possibly get something with a kitchen, right? With its own pool. You can get your own house if you want. So if you have a group, I definitely lean more towards Airbnb so everybody can be in the same place. If you just want to be able to like order room service and not really have to leave the building too much if you don't want to, a hotel is good. But yeah, Airbnb is typically a tool that I will use to find accommodations, as well as hotels.com. Hotels.com is a good one. Even if I don't actually use it to book, sometimes I will use hotels.com just to research like how expensive um different hotels are in different regions. How many like different pockets, typically like I zoom out and see where all of the hotels are differently are like conglomerated together, because that typically means there's like maybe a tourist attraction or something around there to kind of research into. But yes, hotels.com is another good one. Those are typically the two that I'm bouncing back and forth between, deciding whether I'm going to get like more of an apartment style unit or just a hotel. King, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, conglomerated. I want to get a definition check on that. Conglomerated. Miriam, go ahead and check that for us, please. Thank you.
Just says
Um,
go for it.
what was I about to say? But so hotels.com is another one that gives us some good exchange in points for American Express. So again, if you have an American Express credit card, business or personal, you get a pretty good exchange rate for hotels.com. I'll also say in your priorities, figure out when it comes to like where you live, what is the priority? Because we've stayed in some really nice, beautiful hotels in places, but then we don't get like the authentic experience in that location, right? We feel very safe, feel really nice. We have all the amazing amenities, but it doesn't feel like we're actually in that place, like a Jamaica, like we're going to like a Costa Rica, where are we going next year?
Columbia.
Like a Colombia, like a Zanzibar. So I think another beautiful thing about the Airbnbs is usually, unless they're just the hotel rooms or someone's apartment building that they're not supposed to be renting on Airbnb, which happens often.
Yes.
It's a good authentic experience to get an Airbnb because it's usually in someone's house. You're a little bit with the locals. And for me, I really like that experience. Like even in Cape Coast, we were in a hotel that was like literally smack dab in the middle of two different small towns, right on the beach. We were able to walk around freely. It still felt safe, but it felt like such an authentic Cape Coast Ghana experience. Whereas right now we're in Accra, really nice hotel, but it doesn't like feel like we're in Africa or like we're in Accra. So that's another thing to talk about in your priority list.
Yep, definitely. Okay, and then kind of last, second to last, tips is on like excursions. So you've got there, you're staying there. Now, what do you actually do? The first thing I will say is I'm a proponent of booking things ahead of time, for a couple of reasons. One, things are cheaper. Things are generally cheaper if you book it ahead of time. Um, Two, you can guarantee that you're going to be able to do what you want to do. Three, after you already spent money on the flight and then on the hotel, and then you get there, a lot of times you kind of want to like hold on to your money, and you're like, oh, this everything is so expensive, and I think it's just a little bit different in the moment, like having to swipe for everything, and I feel like folks could start to get a little like uh tight with their money, and I my thing is like if you're traveling, you should expect to spend some money, set aside and budget for excursions, and make sure that you actually do what you want to do, because who knows the next time you're going to be able to go to that area, to that top region of the world, make the best of it. And so that's why I just think everybody should book it ahead of time. But also you can avoid like emotional purchases when it comes to excursions, because depending on where you go, there's a lot of times people will be like, oh, come do this and come do that. Like as you're just walking on the street, right? Folks are trying to make they make a living selling excursions to folks in the moment as well. But again, typically they're going to upcharge you there, because they can and because you don't have another option. So definitely make sure that you book them ahead of time. You can do a little bit of searching. You can read reviews. That's another reason I like to book stuff ahead of time. Unfortunately, there are scammers everywhere. So you want to make sure you want to make sure that you are getting a legitimate excursion, that it's going to be safe, it's going to be fun, it's going to be what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
You know, I will say though, Queen, one of our best excursions that we had was a random excursion in Costa Rica
It was.
where your boy spoke a little bit of Spanish. We were able to make something happen. We were able to get like this random boat ride to an island off of the coast of Costa Rica. Had some really good food. Did some jet skiing over there, and then took a nice private boat ride back with the sunset. Saw some turtles in the middle of the ocean making love. It was just like you can't. That excursion is on no website.
It's not. It's
You
not.
can't book that, you know? So I would say definitely, most excursions plan ahead of time, get them by the main website people or hotel people just to make sure that they're safe. But I would leave just a little bit of room for adventure wherever you go. Just a little bit of room. Like if you can just have one day planned where it's like nothing is planned on this day and we're just gonna go with the flow this day, right? Monday we got the hike, Tuesday we got scuba diving, Thursday we have whoop de whoop, but Saturday, you know what? We just gonna go with the flow on Saturday and see what happens. I think you'll get a good best of both worlds.
I am going to second that. I actually think that that's a great idea. To your point, because I think having an open day, I think, is good just because there might be something that you aren't able to research that you can learn from the locals that you want to do once you get there. Which is, yeah, there's a lot of great things that can happen in the moment as well. So great point. Leave a day to where you can explore a little bit. Okay, so real quick, some tools that I use to find good excursions. Number one is TripAdvisor. I typically always will type in things to do in blank wherever I'm trying to travel, and I'll come up with lists of like day trips, outdoorsy things, getting out in nature, food and drink, clubbing, like outdoorsy, getting on the water. There are a lot of different categories and lists that TripAdvisor kind of has for pretty much any city out there. So TripAdvisor is a great place to start, as well as like pictures and reviews from other folks. Airbnb is another place that they have experiences as well. If you're unfamiliar, so there's Airbnb, like the places you can stay, and then there's Airbnb experiences where you can do the same thing and search for a particular area. And then locals from that area can take you on a food tour. That's one of my favorite things that we do in almost every location that we go is take a food tour. A hiking tour, a walking tour, going to see the volcanoes, right? There are a lot of different excursions that you can actually book on Airbnb. And then lastly is one called Viator, another website similar to TripAdvisor where you can go and it's usually specific for excursions. You can just type in again things to do in this location, and you can see a whole bunch of lists that pop up with reviews, and you can decide what to do. So that's definitely an important part of traveling. I think is the excursion, so that again you can make sure that being in the city is cool, but you want to really get those experiences in because that's where the memories are made. So definitely check out those websites. Anything you want to add there, King?
Just watch some videos on YouTube, nothing too deep, right? Like as you're looking at all these reviews, just look at things to do in Costa Rica, things to do in Jamaica, a YouTube video, and just while you're eating lunch, while you're eating dinner, look at the excursions to make sure what you think it is actually what it is. But that's all I got, Queen.
Okay. And that's a great transition into just the very last thing I wanted to cover on travel, and that's just tips when you're traveling internationally. So one of them was going to be definitely hop on YouTube and type in things to know before you go blank. Because typically folks who have traveled there have created these videos and they will tell you about currency exchange. They'll tell you about the language. They'll tell you about laws you should know about that maybe are different than here in the US, right? They're going to mention, dress code, weather, like things like that you may not be aware of before you travel. So definitely recommend you hop on YouTube. Learn the language basics. Definitely don't have to be fluent, but it is good to know the basics of how do you say bathroom, how do you say train or cab or Uber or whatever, the basics that you can use to just get around. I would go ahead and learn, hi, how are you? Like those basics, I would definitely make sure that you learn, not only for like navigation purposes, but also people generally, they treat people who try to learn the language a little bit better rather than folks who just very adamant about speaking their own language in someone else's country. So if you try, even if you're not the best, if they can tell you're trying, they're typically going to, you're probably going to have a little bit of better service than if you just try and speak English everywhere. um, yeah, anything you want to add? Oh, and then my last one is just print proof of everything before you go. Proof of flights, proof of excursions, hotel confirmations, proof of everything, just in case you don't have service. Anything that you might need to show somebody, you want to have it physical copy as well, just in case. King, you got any last minute tips since you are the traveling person right now?
That I am. I can definitely co-sign the language thing. I've gotten good deals on things just because of language. It's a little bit better treatment. I would say. I would also say downloading the Google Maps in the area that you're going to, just in case you don't have good service. If you have the map downloaded, you can still, get places without internet. Which leads me to my third one is making sure that you do have internet service. We have Google Fi. This is not a plug, but Google Fi, if you would like to sponsor a podcast, this would be
Okay.
literally this. We I've had Google Phone since 2011. Come through. What's up? But Google Fi has service pretty much everywhere we've traveled so far. We've had regular texting, call service. We don't need to, pay anything extra. We don't need to tell them we're going out of the country. We just land. It'll say, "Welcome to Ghana," and then I can start texting people. Or just look into getting an extra international SIM card for whoever your carrier is. I think that might be all that I got, Queen.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me on our deep dive into travel podcast. This is an exciting one for me, as you could tell.
Uh-huh. And I'm sure you've said this before, but we're planning a pretty big trip sometime soon. And we're going to 4 different locations. What are those 4 different locations? And yes, please, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. If you are listening on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you like and follow the podcast and share with at least one friend who you want to see travel the world. But Queen, where are we traveling to next year?
Yes. So we are going to be starting in Cartagena, Colombia. Then we're going to hop on over to Lisbon, Portugal. Then we are going to Zanzibar, Tanzania. And then we're
Mhm.
going to finish off in Cape Coast, South Africa. Whoop, whoop,
Cape Town.
whoop. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Cape Town. See, you were the one messing it up. Now you got it. Oh, you got me messing up. I'm mad. It's whatchamacallit, contagious.
My bad, my bad.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's gonna be a great time of travel, seeing the world. We'll try to capture as much content as possible. And then of course we're still gonna be doing the podcast each week as well. Uh the Queen's not gonna love it, but we're gonna try to sprinkle a little bit of international M4 showness as we travel the world. Queen, as we wrap up this episode, any updates you would like to share with the beautiful people?
Just the same, Rose and Rodney. So I'll leave that to you, unless you want me to take it. Okay. Well, we have, I think, 12 days left in our campaign for Rose and Rodney, probably 11 days left by the time you hear this. Um, but yes, we have an active campaign, Fund Black Founders campaign, that you can check out at fundblackfounders.com/Play Black Wall Street, or make it even easier. You can just go to playblackwallstreet.com and click on the support our campaign button right in the front. But yes, we started an animated series, Rose and the Black History Adventures of Rose and Rodney, about Rose and her little brother Rodney, who go back in time to Tulsa and learn a lot about themselves as well as the history. So really, really important to have representation of Black scholars in cartoons. So we need your help to bring this to life. So again, contribute at any level that you can, and please, please, please share it with your friends, your family, anybody that you think would support a Black cartoon. Again, go to www.playblackwallstreet.com to help our campaign reach our goal. We want to give you a full 8-episode season. So help us out.
There it is. Like the Queen said, make sure y'all go to that website. Again, I am in a game room, so you probably hear some voices in the background, but we appreciate your support. PlayBlackWallStreet.com and support the animation. As usual, thank y'all for tapping into another episode of the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making. I'm your host, Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
And I'm Sinclair, aka the health nerd.
Make sure y'all secure the marriage. Make sure y'all secure the love. And of course, make sure y'all secure the bag.
Thank you for supporting the M4 show and our mission to increase the wealth of Black families.
If you received any value from this episode, any value at all, any, do us a favor and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple, Spotify, anything, all of them, all of them, wherever you're listening, go ahead and like and subscribe.
And after you like and subscribe, make sure you send this episode to at least one family that you really want to see win. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.